Welcome to Numbers Never Lie, alongside the great Jemele Hill. I'm the above-average Michael Smith, back after a little one-day break. And coming up, Super Bowl Sunday turning into Super Bowl Saturday. Richard Sherman turning a frown upside down. And we are turning a Kevin Durant tweet into a debate about the greatest shooters in NBA history.
But I can't wait either. And our number one topic, though, is Kobe turning down his starting spot in the All-Star game. The number in the news for Kobe Bryant is 16. Fans voted him onto his 16th All-Star team, which is second only to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had 19. Of course, Kobe has only played 6 games this season and is starting over, well, guys who actually, played. Damian Lillard and James Harden are two that immediately come to mind. Kobe says he wants to give up his spot, Mike. Should he?
No, he shouldn't give up his starting spot. Deserves got nothing to do with it as it relates to this season. But as long as the fans are going to do the voting for the starters, and we can go back and forth about whether that's the right system, but that is the system. As long as the fans are going to vote for the starters, you have got to give the people what they want, and the people want to see Kobe Bryant. Yes, this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I've got no issue with that. Kobe should start if he's healthy enough, and he says he wants to come back before the All-Star game. If healthy, he should start. I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate the gesture. It's very noble. But Kobe Bryant should start. Doesn't have to play 40 minutes. Go out there, reward the fans, because he is one of, if not the most beloved players in the NBA. And this is the end. There's not going to be too many more Kobe Bryant All-Star game appearances. Go out there and play, Kobe.
Well, this is what I think the fans don't understand, is that Kobe, understanding that this is, sort of, he's on the back nine of his career. We don't know how much time.
18th hole, maybe.
Yeah, we don't know how much time he has left. Is that he sees himself as more of an ambassador of the game now. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that he maybe in some ways take the step. This is like passing the torch. And he's like, let some of these younger guys who have never experienced this, he's experienced this so many times, and probably also what the fans don't know, what you guys don't know, is that a lot of players, when they get to this stage in this career, they'd rather not play in the All-Star game because they played in so many. And this isn't to say it gets old. They, of course, appreciate the fact that the fans still hold them in such a high regard, but they also appreciate rest. And he appreciates the fact that because this is among his final seasons, coming off an injury, it's a good time for him to take as much rest as he possibly can.
Kobe doesn't sleep. Kobe's attitude is, I'll sleep when I'm dead. He's not asleep. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Like Kobe Bryant, I would love to see his competitive nature on display at the All-Star game. He takes it rather seriously. So I get wanting to pass the torch, and other guys are more deserving, but Kobe's done enough and given enough to this game to where I can overlook the fact that you said off the top he's only played in 6 games this year. That means nothing to me. The fans voted him in. This is not a meritocracy when it comes to the starters. That's why people are talking about who was snubbed and who wasn't, and who belongs and who doesn't, and losing teams and this, that, and the other. The fans voted them in. So if they want to see Kobe Bryant, I want to see Kobe Bryant, and Kobe should respect that.
With all due respect to the fans, though, they have a history of voting in injured players.
Fine, then change the system. You want to change the system?
They did it with him specifically before. I mean, look, you can't. I know what they're trying to do, but it's not like Kobe's career won't be appreciated if this doesn't happen.
No, but you called him an ambassador on the back nine. Play in the All-Star game. I want to see him out there starting, give a wave, get a couple of shots in, go take your seat, let somebody. Their time will come to be a starter and to be appreciated like Kobe Bryant is.
Well, he could always do that, and then get to the number. They can always do that, and he could just stand up and wave, and then sit back down and take his seat on the bench.
No, he should go. Go out there, please, Kobe. I mean, pretty soon we'll be like, man, I miss Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
Gotta cherish these moments, man. Gotta be all sentimental.
I was like feeling nostalgic today.
Yeah, man.
All right, you think he shouldn't give up his All-Star spot? I think he should. Here's what the numbers say. Should Kobe Bryant give up his starting spot in the All-Star game? The numbers say no. There is precedence for it. Yao Ming in 2011, and Magic Johnson in 1992 are the only 2 players in NBA history who played as few games as Kobe Bryant and started in an NBA All-Star game. I would argue the Magic Johnson one was way different.
I know it was different,
okay,
but it was an unforgettable moment.
Both were among the top 2 conference vote getters as voted on by the fans, and it says by the fans in capital letters, so by the fans from their position.
What's the line from Rocky IV? It's an exhibition. The number in the news for Eli Manning is 33 because he's played 33 games at MetLife Stadium, site of Super Bowl 48. So it's no surprise that Eli has some tips for Peyton on how to deal with such things as the windy conditions there. What's his advice? Well, Eli's not sharing. Otherwise, Russell Wilson might find out as well, so they want to keep it all in the family. Will Eli's advice help Peyton, Jemele?
So what is he going to tell him? Here, this is how you throw a pick six. Hey, this is how you throw into triple coverage. Hey, this is how you make ill-advised throws and fumbles. Do that, 27 interceptions. I'm not listening to anybody who had 27 interceptions.
That is the most cold-blooded thing.
Am I right?
Not expecting
Am I right? Okay.
I didn't ask you this question.
He gonna teach Peyton something.
I wasn't soliciting shade for Eli Manning.
Look,
with this question.
Peyton just threw for 55-something touchdowns. 55 touchdowns, right? He has nothing to learn from Eli Manning.
How dare you? How dare you?
All facts. All facts.
That was completely unnecessary. That's not the point. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about Eli's season. And frankly, since you want to take it there, obviously Peyton is a superior quarterback, but I think Eli's 2-0 in Super Bowls. At the very least, he could teach him how to throw a pass when somebody pins a ball on their helmet. He might be able to give him some advice when it comes to the Super Bowl, but all jokes aside, Peyton could use all the advice he can get. Do you know, Jemele, that Peyton is going up against the first defense in the Seattle Seahawks to lead the NFL in points allowed, yards allowed, and takeaways since the 85 Bears?
And Eli would know nothing.
He saw it firsthand. Didn't they get shut out this year by Seattle? Okay, so there's some more advice there.
He would know nothing about how to score.
Exactly. You can tell him what not to do. Not only that, the Seahawks also led the league in red zone touchdown percentage allowed, and they were first in total QBR. So any tips that Eli can possibly give Peyton about I'm trying to be serious.
Okay.
I'm trying to be serious.
Take it serious. Okay. Serious face.
Serious.
Take it serious.
Discussing our workload. Over a meal right now.
Okay.
Okay. Any tips that Peyton can give to Eli on how to combat this ferocious defense in what might not be optimal conditions? I would be open to him if I'm Peyton Manning, but you too busy talking about how Eli, how terrible he is. He stinks, so you don't want to listen to him.
Well, do you listen to advice from people who stink? Probably not. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
I don't listen to advice from people who are good half the time, so that's neither here nor there.
But no, Eli, I understand that he's trying to give him as many tips and feels like he's giving him a little bit of an inside track. Very brotherly thing to do, and Eli has obviously excelled in these Super Bowl moments. I'm just pointing out the fact that he also led the league in interceptions, and we all wondered all season what the hell is wrong with Eli Manning. So I just don't know what he's going to say. What advice can he offer? The man just had one of the most spectacular seasons in NFL history. Peyton did. He had, who he needs to ask advice from? The weatherman. Is it going to be snowy? That's all Peyton needs to be concerned about.
We're going to talk about the weather more extensively in just a moment. I wasn't expecting you to do that to Eli and Peyton. That's home team for me. I can't believe you went out on my boy like that. Yeah, he had a rough year. It wasn't all his fault.
Look, that's like me asking journalism advice from Jason Blair. Come on now.
You all want to
It's true.
Will Eli's advice help Peyton at MetLife Stadium for a Super Bowl? The numbers say no. The last time Eli played in a game at MetLife Stadium in temperatures below 40 degrees was Week 15 this season. When he tied a franchise record with 5 interceptions in a 23-0 shutout versus the Seahawks. It's like me taking fashion advice from...
Okay, the number of the news for Super Bowl 48 is 30% because there's currently a 30% chance of snow for the Super Bowl. The NFL confirmed on Thursday that there are contingency plans in place in the event of a major snowstorm. The game could be moved to Friday, Saturday, or even Monday. Hey, tell you what's everybody doing next Tuesday? Better yet, 3 Thursdays from now, what is everybody doing? Mike, the fact that we even need to consider this is proof that a cold weather outdoor Super Bowl is a bad idea.
Get over it.
No, I'm not over it.
They're not moving the Super Bowl away from New York. Get over it. Stop it. It's not being relocated. So why are you still complaining about it?
I'm still complaining about it because this is just Exhibit A. The fact that we have to worry about the weather. We got to worry about whether or not the Super Bowl might be played on a Wednesday. The fact that we even have to do any of that.
Why do you care? Why does it matter?
I care because it's breaking a tradition that is a part that is deeply embedded in the fabric of America, and you should care too.
I thought you were about being progressive. No, who cares if the Super Bowl's on a Saturday. Actually, it might be.
What do you mean? Who cares?
Maybe more people could actually focus in church on Sunday if it was actually on a Saturday. Why not spend all day Saturday watching the Super Bowl? Who cares? The bottom line is you want a well-played game. If we get a clunker because of the weather, which
maybe they should have never had it outside to begin with.
That ship has sailed. Okay, so quit complaining about it. But I applaud the league for at least being open-minded enough to say, hey, you know what? If it's more logistically feasible and stylistically, if you will, in terms of quality of play, feasible for us to have the game or beneficial for us to have the game the day before, let's break from tradition as opposed to just forcing it to be on a Sunday because it's got to be Super Sunday. I have no issue with the possibility of it being on a Saturday.
Speaking of church,
just let the
it's
game
a religion to have it on Sunday. That's why it's called Super Bowl Sunday. It's not called Super Bowl Monday. It's not called Super Bowl Tuesday. It is called Super Bowl Sunday.
So what?
What?
So what?
What do you mean?
It's just really, so what? Do you care? So if a bad game is played on a Sunday, you're going to be like, well, at least it's on a Sunday. When you don't want me complaining about the weather from day one.
It will only, once again, I'll jump atop the soapbox once again and say, this is why every year it needs to be in New Orleans or Miami or San Diego. One of those three. Warm weather because you want to see teams playing at their best. And not to mention, if you're a coach in the Super Bowl, how are you supposed to plan for that? Football teams are all about routine.
Come on.
Come on.
You don't think they'll be ready to play on a Saturday?
I'm not saying that they won't,
but
the fact that this is something extra, they have to think about, maybe we might have to play Saturday, and you have to jumble the entire schedule.
But I'd rather play Saturday than to watch a blizzard, like to your point, and I'm agreeing with you on this. It's not ideal to watch the Super Bowl, which is supposed to be a neutral site game, be affected, by a blizzard. So if you could miss the blizzard by moving it to Sunday or Monday, I'll take a Monday night Super Bowl. Why not? Who cares? I just want to see the best game played possible. I want to see both teams at their best. And if that means maybe moving it, if more people can get to the games and not freeze to death or get in car accidents or whatever else, God forbid, move it to Saturday. Who cares? Stop with your traditional stuff.
Memo to the NFL, stop trying to be so cute. Keep them in domes.
Okay, maybe they'll learn from it. You don't like that they're handing out the hand warmers and the seat cushions and the blankets and the... No? It doesn't do it for you? Did I press the right button?
You did.
All right, y'all distracted and stuff.
All right, you would not have a problem with a Saturday Super Bowl. I would.
I'm going to be watching it. You're not going to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to watch.
Thank you.
Would you have a problem with a Saturday Super Bowl? The numbers say no. A 2008 survey commissioned by Kronos Workforce Management, I hope I'm saying this correctly, found that the Monday after the Super Bowl is one of the least productive days of the year. 4.4 million people show up late to work the day after the Super Bowl, and 1.5 million call in sick. They just won't let us be great.
See what I'm saying?
Sometimes you need to take a rest.
We can come in on Monday and be fresh.
In fact, I feel a cold right now.
Meanwhile, the number of the news for Richard Sherman is $29.99, because for a mere $21.99 on his website, you can buy this "Don't You Ever Talk About Me" t-shirt. LOB. Y'all know we are suckers for a good t-shirt, but some might say this is just another example of Sherman making all of this about himself. Jemele, might you have a problem with Sherman selling these t-shirts?
Maybe the reason you use that voice because you know that I do. Once again, I'm okay. I'm fine with the exuberance and the excitement that he showed in his infamous post-game rant. That's all good. Fine. Proclaim yourself the best. Make it about you and Michael Crabtree. All good. But I do believe you did just apologize for taking the attention away from your teammates. So now you go to Twitter and put on there a t-shirt that you want to sell to capitalize on the very moment that you were supposedly sorry that it took away the attention from other people. Looks like you're seeking the attention, and as I've proclaimed all along, while his emotion was in the heat of the moment, he stayed on message, and everything after that was completely calculated. Richard Sherman, props to you. You know the game, but I don't want to hear anything else about you being sorry about taking away the attention from your team.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did he post this picture from the Seahawks official Twitter account, or did he do it from his personal Twitter account?
Yeah, the one that gained like 200,000 followers.
Nobody told him to hit the follow button,
time.
and nobody's forcing people to go and buy these t-shirts, just like nobody has forced us and every other TV show on this network and every other sports network and some non-sports networks to discuss Richard Sherman all week. Which brings me back to that wonderful word you used, capitalize. We live in a capitalistic society, and I applaud Richard Sherman with his Stanford education for capitalizing on his newfound fame or infamy, as the case may be. We've capitalized on it. The reason we're talking about it and everybody else is because of what? Ratings. Because we're trying to get paid off of Richard Sherman. The NFL has capitalized on it. Contrary to Roger Goodell talking about he don't like how Richard Sherman came across and he doesn't cheer for that kind of thing. NFL Films, the NFL Network, Inside the NFL, what they show? Richard Sherman audio. What did Richard Sherman say to Michael Crabtree? Everybody else can capitalize off Richard Sherman but him. That's what you're telling me.
Well, I'm just...
Send me, hey, Rich, Sherm, send me a T-shirt, homie. I'll rock that joint, loud and proud. Send me a shirt.
No, I'm all good with capitalizing, but again, don't sit up there and try to sell me the dream and say, oh, no, it wasn't about me. But CNN, yes, I'm coming on there. But SVP and Russillo, yes, I'm coming on there. But it wasn't about me. I'm trying to take, I'm not trying to take...
Would you take him on Numbers Ever Lie?
Well, that's difficult. But that's his choice.
That's our choice to have him.
Right. I'm doing my job by asking him.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about somebody
can eat.
Who's trying to have it both ways. That's what we're talking about. Who wants to try to control the attention that he sought. Just own it. You sought this attention. You wanted to do this, Richard Sherman. Just own it.
Okay, fine. Speaking of own it, I'll wear that T-shirt. Aaron Andrews, if you're watching, wherever you are, can you make a Who's Talking About You T-shirt, please?
That would be awesome.
I would rock that.
I would rock that.
You could rock the Who's Talking About You. I'll rock the Sherman T-shirt. Bam.
But it was a legitimate question.
And as usual, I'll have the superior T-shirt to you.
Oh, please.
You know I couldn't let you get away with that.
That's what made the moment. Who's talking about you?
Problem with Richard Sherman selling "Don't You Ever Talk About Me" T-shirts. The numbers say no. Let this man make some money. Sherman.
Really?
Wait, here's why. He had a base salary of $555,000 this season, tied for 115th among cornerbacks in 2013. Let's get down to it. Let's reveal the list. You ready?
Already.
Okay, let's go. Here's my top 5. I'm starting with Joe Montana. Number 2, John Elway. Number 3 is Johnny Unitas. Then comes Peyton Manning. Dan Marino, maybe the best pure passer I ever watched in my life.
Joe Montana, obviously, you know, is a 49er fan. John Elway, as you said, prototypical quarterback. Joe Montana maybe loved the game. Dan Marino maybe loved the position. 2 best quarterbacks of most of my life have been Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. I went with Tom Brady. Number 5, and I know that I'm going to hear a lot from people because I have Warren Moon.
That was a look back at Tuesday's Numbers Never Lie, and people have not stopped talking about it or cussing us out, as the case may be, about some of our omissions or the order of those greatest quarterbacks of all time rankings. Welcome back to NNL. We are joined now by ESPN.com's Dan Graziano, whose column on .com proclaiming Peyton the GOAT now, regardless of the outcome of the Super Bowl, is what sparked this very conversation, which we've continued throughout the week. So thanks for joining us.
It is my pleasure.
All right, so here's a question. We're going to humble ourselves for a second and just ask you.
It's a little harder for him.
Right, totally. Speak for the people out there. Are Jamel and I, because Jamel didn't have him in her top 5, I had him at 4 all time. Are we underrating Peyton Manning somehow?
I think everybody's underrating Peyton Manning. The reason I think that is because I don't think anybody grasps how much he's been asked to do in terms of operating his offense. During the week, pre-snap, post-snap, every offense he's ever been a part of, every team he's ever been a part of in the NFL has relied on his ability to make the right decision, to see the right thing and act accordingly. He has not had top 10 defenses other than 2 years in Indianapolis out of 13 years. He's never had an elite offensive line in front of him. He's made different receivers great. He has now taken 3 different coaches to the Super Bowl, one of whom was Jim Caldwell, by the way. I think this is a guy that has shown that everything rests on him, and he's still able to deliver at record-setting, highest-ever levels.
In all fairness, though, how is that different from what any quarterback is asked to do? And some of it, at least it seems this way, Peyton loves to have that responsibility. He wants it that way. He likes being his own offensive coordinator. So I don't know if I can necessarily give him credit for doing what the job requires.
It's not a burden. It's something that they do because he can do it. I mean, if he couldn't handle it and if he didn't love it, then it would be a mistake to operate that way if you were running the Colts for those 13 years or the Broncos for the last 2. But you have in Peyton Manning a unique, historically unique asset, someone who can operate this way and who can make the right decision in the right moment pretty much every time.
Yeah, great points. Only thing I would suggest is that I get tired of the finger point at the defense a little bit because there were some playoff games in which Peyton's offense did not show up and didn't, as we've come to expect it based on his regular season standard of excellence. And 06, he doesn't have a ring if not for that defense finding its way and
Bob Sanders
carrying him through the 06 postseason when he struggled in the 06 playoffs. But I get you. Look, it's not like we're saying Peyton's not an all-time great. I'll just put the onus back on you and ask you this. I had him at 4.
Yeah.
That was not a slight to Peyton or to disrespect Peyton. That's more paying homage and respect to Montana, Elway, and Unitas, who I never got to watch play. I watched some film on him, studied him, this, that, and the other. He was Peyton before Peyton.
He was.
All the things you're talking about Peyton Manning doing, Unitas did that. He's basically the godfather of the modern quarterback. So why is Peyton already better than those guys, especially with the rule changes over the years?
It's my list, and I never saw
There you go.
I love
That's
it.
the right answer.
That is the
right answer.
Or because there's 5.
Exactly. That's the right answer.
It's hard, by the way. I mean, my list leaves off Brady and leaves off.
Yours too.
Who's the all-time leader in all the statistical categories. But I never saw Unitas play. I don't know.
Right.
I mean, but in 1959, he threw 32 touchdown passes. Nobody else in the league threw more than 20. So he was Peyton before Peyton was, and when he retired in 1973, he held all these records.
So here's your top 5. Where's your Twitter handle? Is your Twitter handle up so you can get?
They didn't put it up.
They better put it up so you get the same kind of feedback we got. Go ahead, go through your top 5.
Well, Montana, what Jemele said about Montana the other day rang true for me. Not that I was a 49er fan, but I grew up on this guy, and I thought, I would have never thought I'd rank anybody above him. I thought, this was the quarterback. I mean, he was the model of everything you look for in terms of a leader, in terms of making those right decisions, in terms of not getting rattled in those big games, and all the championships, of course. But John Elway was once the guy that hadn't done enough. He was once what Manning is, and until he wins, can he be considered the greatest of all time? Marino was always that guy and remains that guy because he never did win. Montana got him once early on, and he never got back to the game. So I think, you have Marino, you look at a guy, no one's ever thrown the ball better than him. You had Elway, who was the whole package and won the 2 championships at the end. You had Montana, the consummate champion, and Unitas, who everybody who watched him says was so great, I got to take their word for it.
So let me ask you this. Again, great column on .com. If you haven't seen it, be sure to read it in its entirety. There's bigger points beyond Peyton's brilliance. You're more or less talking about how we judge based off of one game and off of championships and this, that, and the other. So I ask you this. With Peyton's performance, perhaps in the negative, would that take you off of this? Let's say Peyton stinks it up against Seattle. Would you rethink this? Because as a wise man once said, as the facts change, so does my opinion.
And the fact that this is an all-time defense in some respects. So
this is a numbers show.
Yeah.
You guys know about small sample size. We put so much on this one game.
Yep.
And you talk about the 06 playoffs. You're talking about 3 games. So I think you have to look at the totality of it, and the excellence that he has demonstrated throughout his career is on a level that I don't think has been
and he's done it consistently. But I will say that would certainly impact how I looked at him because, again, I know I'm trying to keep in mind that it's difficult to get to the Super Bowl, but let's not forget who he beat to get his first Super Bowl. Rex Grossman, Chicago Bears.
Great Bear defense.
Not as great as this one.
No.
I will say this, though. I mean, I was pointing the question at you, but if he ends up with a second championship, maybe I need to rethink my list. It's just hard for me. I have him at 4. It's hard for me to put him above those first 3, but I might have to change my mind.
At some point,
which I have reserved the right to. You know why, Dan? Because it's my list. All right. Are we underrating, as in we, Michael and Jimmy, are we underrating Peyton Manning? The numbers say yes, we are, Dan. Yes, we are. Because the numbers aren't a fan of valuing Super Bowls.
Really? Okay.
Which are a team achievement. Wait, here's the thing. The numbers write what I say all the time. Which are a team achievement and not a statistic. Manning leads Joe Montana in every major statistical category. Different era, different game, but okay.
All right, the number of the news for Steph Curry is 772 because he now has 772 career three-pointers, which is already the most ever for a player through 5 seasons. He's already averaging more threes per game than anyone in NBA history. Now, yesterday, Kevin Durant was asked on Twitter if he could beat Curry in a three-point contest. His response was this tweet here: Steph any day, best shooter to ever play. Now, of course, Steph Curry, he got wind of the tweet, and this is what he had to say in response to Kevin Durant's huge compliment.
I mean, that's a pretty high compliment from a guy who's averaging almost 40 right now. So it's just special that your peers notice what you're doing on the floor. It means you're putting good performances out there, and I think there's so many great shooters that Kevin's a guy that knows the game well. So to hear that kind of compliment from him, it definitely means a lot.
No way he did that little giggle. Because even he knows it's not true. The best shooter ever, Mike, are you serious?
Why is it so hard to believe?
ever in history, in life, on earth. Best shooter ever.
For my money, he is.
Really?
And I'll explain to you why in 3 words. Degree of difficulty.
Okay.
He is doing work off the dribble, on pull-ups, on step backs from 25 to 30 feet. We haven't seen anybody do it like this with this amount, the volume of 3 points that he attempts and the percentage with which he makes them. Now, granted, he's down this year from last year, but just last season when he made a record 272 threes in 600 attempts. Nobody's ever been that productive and that efficient at the same time. 45% last year, okay? He's one of 3 players, along with Steve Kerr and Drazen Petrovic, with a true shooting percentage of 58, a 3-point percentage of 43, and a field goal percentage of 46. He's different. He's the primary ball handler. He's constantly double-teamed. He's creating his own shot.
Are all great shooters?
No, not all of them. A lot of them coming off screens. Steve Kerr has the highest percentage of all time. He's more of a spot-up shooter.
Okay.
People setting him up.
Yes.
Steve Curry is doing it off the dribble and making threes at an all-time clip. That's why, yes, already, I know it's soon, already I am ready to say and agree with Durant that he is the best shooter that we've ever seen.
It's way too soon. Holler at me when he has 5 seasons with more than 200 3-point makes, such as Ray Allen, who would be.
I think he will.
Oh, okay, but he
he
hasn't, right? I mean, Ray Allen's already number 1 all time with what, 2,910 threes? Are you kidding me? Mark Price, who had a 40-90 season, 40% from 3, 90% from the free throw line. Glenn Rice, he drained almost 1,600 threes in his career. Chris Mullin, he also had a 50.
You said all these people are better than Steph Curry. I got 4 eyes. I watch Steph Curry.
All I'm saying is that
a thing of beauty is a joy forever. My man Jack Keats said that. Okay.
And let's not even count it. I know he has been in the playoffs, but let's not even count pressure shots in the playoffs. Reggie Miller demolished the whole city because of his 3. That display of 10 seconds, what he did.
I know.
That showed his greatness. All right.
Okay, fine. So you just ran down a whole list. You know, everybody in NBA history has ever made a 3-pointer. I got you. It's too soon.
It's way too soon. Dennis Scott, the 95-96 season. 267
wait. When the 3-point line was shorter, there was a point in the mid-90s when it was 22 feet.
Yes.
Now it's back to 23.9. But that's fine. Give me your top 5. Let's do it.
All right.
Here's
my top 5.
Top 5 shooters of all time.
I think number 1, I already gave it away. Number 1 for me is Reggie Miller. I mean, in terms of pressure shot making, and certainly his ability to talk trash. So I also made my top 5 trash talk list. Is Reggie Miller. Ray Allen is next. Ray Allen, again, he overtook Reggie in terms of most 3-pointers in NBA history. Larry Bird. Now, Larry Bird statistically doesn't necessarily fit some of the greatest pure shooters.
Didn't rely on 3.
But he's Larry Bird. I love the fact that Larry Bird won the NBA's first 3-point contest. Showed up and won with warm-ups on. It was
who's playing for second?
Right?
Exactly.
Who got next? What y'all got?
Who you got after that?
Chris Mullin. I think he was my number 5. And number 4, I forgot who my number.
Mark Price.
Mark Price. That was my number 4.
All right, here's mine. Curry. Steve Nash, also a primary ball handler.
That's a good one.
Career 49 from the field, 42 from 3, 90 from the line shooter, okay? Steve Nash goes second. Larry Bird, we've already extolled his virtues just off GP. If I had a shot for my life, I probably want the ball in Larry Legend's hand.
That's your number 1.
Just bear with me, okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out.
Next because of the record, followed by Reggie Miller.
You got Reggie 5th? 5th?
We have to talk about this again. It's my list.
Okay.
Oh, it's my list.
Okay, it's your list.
I put Reggie 5th. A clutch shooter. If it's clutch, maybe it's a different conversation. I put Reggie 5th.
That should be a part of all of this.
But Ray Allen had just broke his record. Ray Allen goes a little higher. Bird is probably the best clutch shooter of all time. But Nash, man, people underestimate how great of a shooter, how efficient a shooter Steve Nash was. And doing the same things mostly I'm talking about with Steph Curry, which is creating his own shot off the dribble as the point guard.
Let me, Mr. Four Eyes, explain this to me. How is it that Steph Curry is your number 1 shooter of all time, but you named 4 or 5 guys before you didn't include him in the conversation of clutch shot making?
He hasn't had those moments yet. He's still young.
Which is why it's too soon. Thank you.
I know what I see.
Thank you.
I know what I see.
Thank you. Hit the number. Argument over.
Why are you yelling at me?
Because you just admitted it. You just basically admitted I was right.
I did not. I'm trying to have a civil conversation with you about shooting.
Okay.
And you got to take it to.
Yeah, I did. I had to yell at you.
You got to take a turn to negative town. Like, I'm just saying. I think Durant says it. A lot of people have said it.
Durant's like 12 years old. He doesn't count. All right. Kevin Durant tweets Steph Curry is the best shooter ever. Do you agree? Mike does. I don't. The numbers say no, and neither should Durant. You knew you were going to lose that one.
I just gave you a you-know-what load of numbers.
Curry's career true shooting percentage of 58.4 ranks 40th all time. 40th.
The people above him, the people above him are shooting threes. Like
40th all time.
I think number 1
among active players.
All right.
Durant's career true shooting percentage ranks 18th.
That's a bad
statistically, Durant's the better shooter. Ranks 18th all time, 4th among active players.
Look at the list of the true shooting percentage leaders.
Hey, look at the list of career three-point shooters. You got Jason Capono on there.
The number in the news for Kobe Bryant is 31 because he's one of 31 players to be drafted in the first round straight out of high school. It obviously worked out just fine for Kobe, and he's not so sure that players benefit from college, that system at all. Check out what Kobe Bean had to say earlier in the week. He's a philosopher these days.
If you do the numbers and you look at the count, you probably see players who came out of high school that were much more successful on average than players who went to college for a year, which it seems like the system really isn't teaching players anything. They go to college.
Kobe right? College doesn't improve players?
Well, I mean, you hate to throw a wide generalization because there are obvious examples of players that it has helped. But I think the way the game is today, no, it doesn't. I see a lot of overcoaching. I see a lot of guys that can't shoot, a lot of guys that aren't developed. And because college basketball, and trust me, I once loved the sport. It might have been my favorite sport at one time, but I've fallen increasingly out of love with it because, unfortunately, since all the stars are at the next level, the college game has become about the coaches, and they make sure you know that with the defenses that are way too physical, and I know the NCAA is really looking out for hand checking with some of these they just overrun the game with timeouts and plays, and there's no breathing room for players to get better because the coaches want too much control.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, and I'm glad you started off by saying you don't want to overgeneralize, because I think it's one thing to say, yeah, it worked out for Kobe and Garnett and LeBron and a lot of players.
As it does for most superstars.
Because they're superstars. And whether they go to college or not, they're going to be superstars. Now, let me digress for a second and say, I don't like the system. I think you should have the option. That was Kobe's larger point. You should have the option of going straight to the pros out of high school if you so choose. But since this is a system in place, I have a hard time believing that somebody doesn't benefit from the tutelage of the likes of Mike Krzyzewski or your guy Tom Izzo at Michigan State or Rick Pitino or somebody like that. Let's look at maybe the best defensive player in the league this year, Roy Hibbert. Couldn't run when he got to Georgetown. I think college helped him just a little bit. And last but not least, Michael Jordan, I think somebody once said the only person that could hold him under 20 was Dean Smith. He learned a lot playing for Dean Smith. Maybe he's not the greatest player of all time if he doesn't go through North Carolina and play for Dean Smith. Who knows? Maybe he is. So for some, they don't need college, but I don't think it hurts you by going to college. It definitely helps their pockets, which I don't like, but I'm sorry, there's some good coaches in college basketball.
And I know you got to get to the number, but I think that's why it hurts them, is that in college, it's all about the coaches maintaining their job security, okay? And in the pros, you invest that kind of money in a guy, and I know you have a rookie salary scale, hey, you're going to make sure he works out.
I got it. I mean, and there's a long list. There was this great article. I forgot who wrote it in Basketball Prospectus. Long article about all the players who came out of high school. The vast majority of them did work out and became good players, if not
Kyrie Irving, he didn't need that time at Duke.
Yeah, but still Mike Krzyzewski. He's a good coach. Kobe Bryant says college basketball doesn't improve players. Is he right? The numbers say no. Of the 10 NBA starters announced yesterday, only Stephen Curry stayed in college longer than 2 years. 6 of the 10 players have 1 year or none of college experience.
The X Games continue tonight on ESPN at 10:30 Eastern with the finals of snowboard, big air, and men's ski superpipe. All right, the number in the news for Peyton Manning is 3 because he's the third quarterback to start the Super Bowl for multiple teams and could be the first to win with 2 teams. Jim Irsay, the owner of Peyton's former team, says he couldn't be more excited for Manning and is rooting for him. Strange as it may seem, in the Super Bowl.
It does not seem strange.
It is strange. Well, do you believe he's really rooting for Peyton Manning?
Yes, and judging by your tone, you don't think he's being sincere when he says this.
This is one of those cases where you're in an elevator with somebody and you ask him, hey, how you doing? You don't really mean it. You don't really care.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, sorry. I
Some
guess
of
I
us
just
actually
exposed
care about
myself
our
as a
fellow
mean
man.
person.
Yeah, you
I don't
did.
really care sometimes when I ask you that.
Really?
It's just a way to make conversation.
Well, that's what a total stranger.
Just an air filler.
But that's what a total stranger. Jim Irsay views Peyton Manning like a son. Okay? I have no doubt in my mind that he would love to see Peyton get another Super Bowl. Just like I think most football fans out there outside of the Pacific Northwest are probably rooting for the Broncos and rooting for Peyton Manning to put the legacy talk to bed once and for all to cap this unbelievable season that he's had. I mean, people seem to be on his side. Why wouldn't Jim Irsay want to see a guy who he knows so well and is so close to get the ultimate prize after all he's given to the game? Why not?
The reason is because inevitably this will take us back to the question of, look, it's settled for me, but generally speaking, there's a lot of people out there, they will say, well, you could have had Peyton Manning as your quarterback. You realize that,
and
right?
Those people are ridiculous. You know, has Andrew Luck not taken the team to the playoffs the last 2 years?
Yeah, he has, but he hasn't taken to the Super Bowl.
Well, okay, and wow, Peyton didn't in the first 2 years either.
Yeah, I know, but it doesn't look that way. It's not going to be framed that way. It's going to be.
We're going to frame it that way.
Oh, okay.
Nobody coming on this here show talking about it was a mistake because Peyton Manning got the Super Bowl.
Well, there are some people who do believe it was a mistake, so you have to account for those people.
Some people believe the world is flat, or used to. Okay, it's not. It's ridiculous to think that this will somehow reflect poorly on Jim Irsay's decision when he's got one of the soon-to-be. Now you're talking about Andrew Luck. Now you got me going here.
Yeah, I know I'm talking about your other son.
We saw what he just did in the playoffs, okay? Yeah, he threw a lot of picks.
He did.
But he also had the largest regulation comeback in NFL history.
And you continue to overlook the fact that he can be careless with the football. Okay, I get it.
Peyton his first 2 years, as I seem to recall.
All I'm saying is that especially, and this is why, and not to turn this into an Andrew Luck conversation, but since we're going there, all right, Andrew Luck will be measured against whatever Peyton Manning does. So Andrew Luck better win a Super Bowl, and especially now if Peyton adds another one, even more pressure for Andrew Luck.
Oh, you stop it.
It is.
Andrew Luck didn't draft himself. Andrew Luck has already acquitted himself well and showed that he was worth the number one overall pick. No, he won't acquit himself until he wins a Super Bowl. You know what? This is confusing.
It's not.
It's totally confusing.
If you replace, if they made the decision.
It's a team accomplishment.
Oh,
and we put too much emphasis on rings for a quarterback, okay? Then now you're going to say the pressure's on Andrew Luck because Peyton Manning's team just won another Super Bowl. By the way, I'll save it. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you believe Jim Irsay is rooting for Peyton Manning? I say no. You say yes. The numbers say yes.
Pettiness lives there.
He's moved on, and the future looks bright. Andrew Luck has 22 wins in his first 2 seasons, tied for second most ever, and his 8,196 passing yards is the most of any quarterback in their first 2 career seasons, 322 more than Peyton Manning. Hope he wins a Super Bowl.
You know what Jim Irsay is saying? I'm good. Meanwhile, not so good, perhaps. The number of the news for Mike Pettin is 5 because he will be the Browns' 5th different head coach since 2008. The other 3 teams in the AFC North haven't made a single coaching change in that span. Pettin, the Bills' defensive coordinator last season, was one of 10 known candidates to interview for the job. I had one arranged, but they canceled at the last minute. Once it's I'm joking. Pettin is, of course, replacing Rob Chazynski, fired after a year. So a year from now, do you think the Browns will be looking for another new head coach?
The fact that we even have to consider it says everything you need to know about this search and about the Browns in particular. I would not be surprised. I honestly wouldn't. I like to lean toward no, though. I mean, for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to say no, but it's a reluctant no. And that's because they've clearly already proven that they would. I mean, the other part of this, though, if you're them and you do that, that means the next guy you pick, I don't care if it's the first guy, third guy, fifth guy, 8th choice, whatever it is, just because of the heat you caught for getting rid of Rob Chazynski, you better stick through with this one. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Cleveland Browns owner has them. He took out that nice, pretty ad in the paper. Wrote a letter to the fans and said, be patient. It said, we know what we're doing here. We're going through a meticulous process to bring a guy that can win in Cleveland. Well, if it's not this guy and if things go south, the last thing he can do is replace him because he's already sold this dream.
Yes, he can, and yes, he will. Now, this has nothing to do with Mike Pettin, who I have known to be or understood to be a fine football coach, obviously working under Rex Ryan, had the Bills play a more aggressive style of defense, and they had a team record of 57 sacks. They blitzed like 38.8% of the time. So he's got a pretty decent resume in a short period of time. But you know what the Browns are? They're serial monogamists, okay? Like I used to be back in high school and college, okay?
Okay.
This is right now, Mike Pettit is just who they're with now. They are loving the one they're with right now.
Okay.
They have wandering eyes. They're always looking for something better. And I think the process shows that they didn't quite know who they wanted. The people they thought they wanted turned them down, whether it was Adam Gase or I think Dan Quinn was
Josh McDaniels.
or Josh McDaniels or Ty Bowles, whomever. So they're like, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get Mike Pettit, who they're not really setting up to succeed. Brian Billick is like, well, if you were going to hire him, why didn't you hire him January 3rd?
Could have.
So he could put a staff together. There's no continuity here, so I have no reason to believe we won't be sitting here this time next year having the same conversation about the Cleveland Browns, looking for another coach. Because it's not the guy they want.
I'll reuse the analogy I used the other day when this came up. Cleveland Browns were in the bar, and the lights came on. It was 2 a.m.
That's pretty much.
Mike Pettit?
Pretty much.
All right.
Our time's up. Time for the number. Let's get to it and settle this once and for all. I'll tell you who the Browns really want, you know? They want Belichick or somebody like him.
Yeah.
That's why they kept going. They're scarred because Belichick went on to bigger and better things in New England. So everybody that they hired is either a Belichick assistant or maybe if Saban comes out next year, guarantee they fire this guy and move on.
Oh, that's a good point. All right. Will the Browns be looking for a new head coach in a year? You say yes, I say no. The numbers also say no, but they say maybe in 2 years. 5 Browns coaches have coached 32 games or fewer since the franchise returned to the NFL in 1999. That's tied with the Dolphins and Raiders for the most in the NFL over that span. So just wait one more year, so 2 years from now.
You gotta get him a quarterback.
The women's finals of the Australian Open is tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Lina versus Dominika Sivulkova for the win.
Good job. Good effort. Time for some numbers that you absolutely positively need to know. The number you need to know for a Super Bowl champion is 20, because 20 of the last 25 Super Bowl champions have come from the area with the lower unemployment rate, according to a study released Wednesday by Rise Smart. That's an outplacement firm based in San Jose. The Seattle metropolitan area's unemployment rate is 5.9%, which beats the Denver's region's 6.7%. So that gives the Seahawks the edge, I guess?
I guess it does, and also means certain cities will be eliminated. I won't name them because I don't want the shade. One of them I'm from. That's all you need to know.
That's the most random stat of all time.
It is, though. I never would have guessed. You know, I guess now that the Super Bowl is here,
20 or 25?
It's all kind of bets coming off.
Does that mean something? I mean, 20 or 25, you can't just say, oh, that's nothing. A big sample size.
It's something. The number for Percy Harvin is 38. Harvin has a career high of 38 receiving yards in his 3 postseason games. He missed the NFC Championship game because he got knocked out with a concussion, but he's expected to play in the Super Bowl.
What an X factor.
What an X factor.
Seriously, like, oh, we just gonna get Percy Harvin back. That's like a trade deadline.
Talk about right?
You know?
I almost feel like, shouldn't there be a cutoff for this
That's
sort
like
of thing?
cheating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're getting a receiver who last year led all wide receivers in yards after the catch per reception. This isn't just a scrub they get. They're getting Percy Harvin back. What if they put him back on kickoffs? And if you're John Fox, how do you prepare for him?
Yeah.
He's played 33 snaps this year.
You have no film to look at it, but
unbelievable boost.
You know he's explosive, so that's all they do.
The number you need to know for LaMarcus Aldridge is 44. Aldridge dropped a career high 44 points last night in the win over the Denver Nuggets. He's averaging the career highs in points with 24.7 and rebounds with 11.6. Some would say he was snubbed as a starter in the All-Star game. LA is doing work. I don't have a problem with Kevin Love and Blake Griffin being the front court guys.
No, I don't. It's a fan vote, and people will have to remember that. But I will say this. You know, I think for a period in this NBA season, people had conceded the best power force conversation to Kevin Love. I think LaMarcus Aldridge has been the best power forward all season. I
just want to, one day, as a brief aside, I want to get LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMarcus Cousins, DeMarcus Ware, and JaMarcus Russell in a room at the same time, just to see what happens. The number you need to know for Dominican Sue is $22.4 million. Sue is scheduled to make $22.4 million against the Lions cap for this season, so Sue and the Lions will be looking for an extension. Although Sue is looking for a new agent, and reports suggest that he could be the latest to select Jay-Z's Rock Nation to rep him. You like this?
Look, this just shows the power of Jay-Z. It wasn't like anything went wrong with Ndamukong Suh because he's made a lot of money. He just decided, or this is his decision, just to go with Jay-Z based off, I guess, name, brand, whatever.
It's becoming old news now. I mean, you know, it's like more and more people are realizing Jay-Z is a credible agent.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just, okay. Latest guy to sign with Jay-Z.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What's up with the mug?
You like it?
Selling it for your website?
I think it's pretty